Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to thank ICCO for hosting this session today. My name is Terry Savage. I'm chair of the London International Awards. ICCO have been massively involved, as we have seen earlier, in the UNDP's Weather Kids campaign, and we thought it interesting to explore and dissect the creative input, origination and evolution of the campaign. And to help me do that today, we have, in no particular order, because they're sitting in totally the wrong places, so put up your hands when I call you out. Vico Sharabani, the founder of the Artery, the production company behind the creation of the main film. Natalia Vasilyeva, EVP Marketing and Strategy at Anzu, the world's most advanced intrinsic game advertising platform. God, they're doing me in, doing my head in with the names here. I tell you, I'm Australian. Sergio Fernandez did Cordova. Hey. Executive Chair of the Public Foundation, an innovative non-profit that mobilizes media, data and technology for sustainable development and social impact globally. And Gilad Regev, founder of Kora, whose company mission is to create a new economy for sustainable living. So thank you for being here this afternoon. Vico, we'll start with you.
Sure. Let's take it.
You forgot Marjan.
Oh, Marjan Blumberg. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Marjan Blumberg, the strategic communication and advocacy consultant at the UNDP. So apologies. Vico, two questions here. When you saw the brief that you were working with children, what was your reaction? And the second is about the star of the American version of the film. Can you tell me what her connection to the topic was? Was she acting, or did she really believe in the cause?
Sure. So a reaction to working with kids was a pure delight. It's working with the grown-ups that scared me. Because really, when you think about climate change or weather conversations, we're used to thinking about conversations about the weather as small talk. But for kids, it's a big conversation for the future. And it really, you could see that in every conversation that we had with the kids. You saw Dion before, how involved he is and how engaged. That was a pure delight to work with them. And there were so many, working with kids is always challenging, and definitely one of the kids there literally kicked me throughout the day just because they couldn't hold themselves, right? It's 9-year-old kids. It's hard to control. But the challenges of a campaign of this magnitude is so big when you're talking about multiple languages, 87 countries, the kits that we produced so people can create local versions of what we produced. There were so many challenges that were far beyond the kids. The kids were an actual delight. And for the second question about the kids definitely believed in the cause. They felt that just giving them the voice was a pure, a big stage that they wanted to fill in the best way that they could. Some of the kids had a background of acting, and some of the kids were just first time in front of the camera. Family, one of the kids, her brother actually trained her. It was like beautiful, beautiful people that cared about the cause tremendously.
Fantastic. Okay, Natalia, could you please explain what intrinsic in-game advertising is? And given that the majority of game players, about 60%, are in the up to 34-year-old age space, and the rest are over 34, which is the target audience for this campaign, how do you deliver the message that is relevant to the target audience for the Weather Kids?
With pleasure. So let's start with intrinsic in-game advertising. I'm sure that there are more people in the audience who'd want to understand what it is. So intrinsic in-game advertising is a nascent ad format running in a comparatively nascent advertising environment, which is gaming. So think of us as gaming, virtual out of home brought to gaming. So it's literally gaming out of home. Have a look at all of the ads that we see on the sites. All of them are now can be available in a scalable, dynamically delivered way with our technology on mobile, PC, console, and the metaverse. So every ad that you're used to seeing in real world can be brought and recreated within the gaming environments. And this is what we did for the Weather Kit campaign. Which is another important thing in a measurable way. So speaking about the activation, there were a discussion in the previous panel around the creative. So I already mentioned that gaming is a nascent advertising environment. And as every advertising medium, it is peculiar and it should be treated as such. So we got started with taking the creatives, the brilliant creatives that you ran across media, and worked with our creative team to make them relevant and to make them contextually fit in the gaming environments. So that was the first thing that we did. 100% aligned with the brand guidelines, following all the guidelines, but also making sure that the video was shrunk to 6 seconds because that's what resonates with gamers. And it's a very important step. So I could not, that. And then speaking about the audience, we ran across 84 countries and across 68 mobile and PC games played by all ages, including 35 plus, both genders, all genders. We could reach 12 million unique gamers across the campaign, throughout the campaign. And then the rest, as you spoke about targeting, is achieved by just, the right targeting, first contextual targeting and then the audience and the age targeting. And that's how we got to 12 million uniques.
Perfect. And I have to say, anyone that hasn't seen the game with the advertising, it's amazing. It's really terrific. So you should make an effort to try and see it because it sort of opens your eyes to what's possible in your sphere.
Appreciate it.
Marjan, you work for the UNDP. You have previously worked for both national and city governments. Will campaigns like this, with great media coverage, great engagement, great PR, move and change the minds of government, or is it just votes that politicians are interested in and they will not truly act unless they risk losing power?
Good question, Terry. For us, obviously, the goal of our campaign was to really reach a broad audience, targeted as grown-ups. Part of that, obviously, is trying to influence governments to make the right decisions, but it was really geared towards climate action for everybody. And the message is broad enough that everybody could get touched by it and decide what their personal climate action should look like, whether you're a young person, a grown-up, or a government as such. Boaz touched on it a little bit earlier on. Obviously, our goal with this campaign is also looking towards 2025 and see what climate action can be taking at a global level. But for us, first and foremost, it was really to educate a large audience, to make them think about it and take climate action at a personal level.
But when we get to governments, Marjan, in Australia, the opposition leader has just announced to get right-wing votes, presumably, that in fact he's going to dismiss with the Paris Accords and the targets we've committed to. Can we specifically, with Weather Kids, target him, or does the UN sort of forbid that sort of reality check to him that you don't know what you're talking about?
Yeah, so as the UN, we represent all governments and all countries, as you know. I think for us, it's all about bringing the message to the front of everybody at an individual level, at a global level, and making sure everybody gets engaged and goes out there, including voting, including taking action, yeah.
So the ordinary people can vote against them if they've got the awareness.
Well, we definitely want everybody to go out and vote and take climate action to the front lines. We think it's the largest problem on a global scale that we're facing right now. And so our job is to educate everybody, to create awareness, and I think the bottom line is that we do all believe that change is possible if we take action now, and I think that is the general message, and we'll keep on fighting because we believe it's still possible if everybody joins us on this mission.
Okay, well, I'm fighting very hard with Peter Dutton for you.
Can I add here?
You can.
Yeah, also if you think about it, governments give us promises for the next 10, 20, 30 years. Where are those that gave us those premises in 2000 or 1990s? They're gone. So I think there is an inherent issue here between the life cycle of democratizes governments versus generations of problem which called climate change, and we need to close that gap, but involving everyone.
Right. Yeah. Good point. Sergio, great creativity has significant cut through when compared to work that is not creative. Media power, however, is still required to amplify the messaging, and in the NGO space, where everyone wants exposure for nothing, how do you achieve this?
Well, the bigger the better, right? Because if you're actually asking for something targeted, it's a lot more difficult, because this is how a lot of media companies make their money. Today, everything's interconnected. So a lot of what we do is aggregate the platforms that actually have the capacity and also have the imperative, right? Today, as we're talking about, get the young people to talk to the parents, right? It sounds like a juxtaposition, because young person, what do they know about the future? Well, they're inheriting it, right? So the beauty about this campaign is we're actually looking at the future, but saying we need to take action now. It's almost like Nostradamus. We're predicting, but we got to get that media in front of everyone. And if we're not getting it in front of everyone, and then what we do is try to find those that actually care, right? There are organizations that actually have zero interest, which is okay. We just don't waste our time, right? But the beauty, again, with everything interconnected in the platforms, is we're able to start to create movements, right? And then repurpose, retarget, and continue to push the conversations, right? If we don't have good creative, it's actually, to your point, it's impossible. You're moving a rock uphill. But, the point is creative like this and, imperatives where the young people are saying, Dad, why are you making these decisions? Like Peter Dutton's kids, if he has any kids, right, should be talking to him saying, what are you doing? Right? When he comes home to the dinner table and says, hey, all the people my generation actually don't believe in what you're doing and the planet that you're going to leave us with.
But how do you do this? Sorry, Vico, you talk.
Just something, when we talk about creativity or the creative part of this campaign, it's, first of all, kudos to Activista for coming up with the genius idea, but a part of the creative solution here was the biggest media hack in history, probably, because they received prime time at 300 networks with $0. They did not become a news story. They took over the news. And I think that this was a very creative solution for spending the media or getting to everybody.
Yeah, but it's also the fact that it was relevant. It was something that it wasn't us trying to sell a product and connect and push something to people. The reason why the media picked it up is because everyone can relate. Everyone can connect. It's a real story about the future, talking about it today and now, right? So it's not a heavy lift. It's just making sure that everybody knows that this is happening, that everybody knows that these creative ideas are coming out from that man in the back over there, Boaz, who's continuously ideating and saying, how can we move the meter? How can we engage as many people? We had a dinosaur last year. We have a bunch of young people talking about the future. Can't wait for next year, right? But it's and we're also building up, which is really important in media. It's not just we're starting from zero every time. We're actually also building on these conversations and talking about the future and getting people to take action, whether it's sign up, whether it's share, whether it's actually get activated and do something.
And just to the point of media exposure and amplification of the message is critical, in my view, to actually
Absolutely.
get this into so many parts in the world. In reality, however, there are literally hundreds of charities and NGOs that all think it's a worthy cause, and probably is a worthy cause they're fighting for. How do you prioritise so the cause that in fact will eliminate all of those other charities? What's the use of having an animal charity if there are droughts and no water? How do you prioritise from a media perspective so that campaigns like the Weather Kids get preference and priority above everything else? And is it right that you do that?
Well, I think the beauty, my opinion, is that when you have an organization like the United Nations and UNDP, which is really sort of a umbrella of what everybody else kind of follows the suit, is what you get is that you get every organization in the planet actually get behind. And that's also the ripple effect of these campaigns, where all these organizations are going to say, well, they're talking what I'm talking about. Let me get behind. Let me push it. And you get an actual exponential amplification value out of it. So it's actually not competitive. It's rather everyone really gets behind. And that's the beauty, again, of making it as big as possible, right? Dream bigger, think bigger, because then everyone else hasn't had that capability or hasn't thought that way.
But in reality, it's only one of the SDGs. There are 17
exactly.
of them. So the 16,
Exactly.
How do you deal with that when the one is going to save the planet and the other 16
Well, they're all
probably
interconnected. They're all interconnected. It's true.
Gilad, you are quoted as saying, and this is, I got it off your website, I think, I see a world where every individual is not only empowered, but also inspired to take action against climate change. A world where our collective efforts are celebrated and rewarded as we work together to build a sustainable future for generations to come. Guess the question is, how's that going? And secondly, how can we improve from where we are at this time?
Did I actually say that? So we actually taking, the work that you guys are doing is amazing. And now everyone is asking themselves, okay, what can I do? And I have a question to all of you here. Does any one of you in the audience, Terry, you included, knows what was your carbon footprint by moving around here today? Do you have any clue? Boaz, yes, because you are using our app. But the point is the following. We keep talking about climate and climate action, but let's face it, most of us don't really understand what is the CO2 or the carbon emissions. Most of us don't know how to act on them and how our actions are actually reflecting our ability to reduce our carbon emissions. Just according for you to know, that we as people, we can influence between 50 to 60% of global emissions. So it depends on the different research that I read. We keep taking ourselves out of the equation. It's always them, it's always the governments, and it's always promises that we are receiving towards the future. The question is, how can each one of us, Boaz was talking about us as a humanity, I look at it as 8 billion heroes, climate heroes. How can we take those incremental actions that actually make the change? And I think that's our work. This is what we are doing. We created an app for that, and people start to get it. And in order for that to work, we also said, let's reverse the idea of carbon credits. Carbon credits is just another punishment system. You did bad, now you have to pay for it. No, I want to reverse it. You do good, we are rewarding you. That's the whole idea. And I think that if we all start to act as 8 billion people, as one huge global community, we can make the change and not wait for them and their promises to do it for us.
And can you see the day when that watch can measure my carbon?
Absolutely. So now it's the phone, and to move it from the phone to the watch is not really, is one call to Apple and it's done. So that's easy. That's the easy part.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I'd just like to ask each of our panelists very quickly to tell the audience what they should do to minimize their carbon emissions, or more specifically, what they can do to spread the message that if we don't fix this problem, which at the moment seems like it is 37 years away, if we don't fix this problem, how can we spread the message that we are going to have serious consequences facing the planet, if we're lucky us, but undoubtedly our kids?
Well, I think number one is lead by example, right? And show folks how they could make the part. Rather, don't push your vision onto them, but show them how they could actually do that one thing to make the change.
But how? And to this point, we had an amazing seminar today, and I've seen a ton of seminars at Cannes Lions, and this is one of the best seminars I'd ever seen. The reality was, okay, you're up against Elon Musk, but if I'm a brand marketer, I need to know this stuff. I need to get it into my organization. I need to get it to my board, and yet they weren't there today. So if in an event where they've got the opportunity to learn, see the roadmap, see the consequences, they still don't come, how do you fix that problem?
I mean, my perspective is you have to continue to push the information out there. We can't give up.
Okay.
I can relate to that, and I think that's a rhetorical question, but does it start with the industry? You spoke about brand marketers, so I'm a marketer, but does it start with me being a marketer or an individual who should care of the future, right? Who has a kid who will have to live in this world? So you ask, how can we spread the message? Let's start by spreading the message, speaking about it, and then define how, because I don't think that we speak about it at all. And when we got started, I also we needed to onboard publishers, and from what angle should I come to them? How should I, sell it to the teams internally? And it all starts with being individuals, being parents, being human beings who live here and suffer more and more. So, that's a question, whether it should be on the professional or we should be self-cautious, day by day.
I think each one of us can just take responsibility, start to act, and each one of us is a voice. And if each one of us is reaching another 10 voices, that's spreading it to another 10 voices, we have the power. And I think that it's upon us to do the work. I'm not waiting for others to do it for me.
I don't want to be a party pooper, but it needs to hurt us in order for us to take action. That's as human beings. That's historically what happens. So unfortunately, I think that the disasters that are coming up will hopefully push us collectively to act, because people know how to lose weight, but they still need magazines to tell them how to do it every week, right? So it's not about just spreading the message. I think that when it gets personal, then people act, and unfortunately, this one is hurting and will hurt quite a lot of people. Yeah.
And I'll finish this one off, obviously, about the pledge. I don't know if everybody in here already went to the website and took a pledge, but I think it starts now if it hasn't started already, and we really urge all of you to take climate action and take that pledge on behalf of children of the future.
How do they do it? How do they do it?
What do you mean?
Take the pledge.
So you go to weatherkids.org. It's a great website. It's a great environment. You pledge on behalf of the children in your life, and you can have a look at how 2050 can look like if we all take action today. So thank you for taking that pledge.
And ladies and gentlemen, I think we've come to the end of our time. Thank you very much to our panelists, which I'm not going to name you all again, except for Marjan, because I forgot her in the beginning. So Marjan gets 2 mentions. But I love the concept of be self-responsible and spread the word as much as you possibly can. I think there are 2 takeaways from this, that if we're going to be passive, we're going to make it someone else's problem, it's an individual problem, and it's our role to spread the word. So thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much for our esteemed panelists.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you.
Thank you, Terry.